So I would love to talk today about the SDGs.
Okay.
Especially that the water industry still hasn't understood the SDGs. I mean, we know that we have 7 SDGs. And for us...
17
goals. And number 6 is about water. And still, I mean, it's not the first time that we talk about that, right? Still, we have companies who are saying, well, we solve SDG 6. So what that means, we are in compliance with that. I think we have to come really clear to the point. The SDGs they were not made for companies itself. They were made for countries to solve the global issues. And then you can break it down for sure that you take the community, that you take the industry with. But a water company doesn't solve SDG 6 if they have a product which treats the water, right? So that is the point. And still we have companies who are doing that, which are saying that. And mostly because of the reason is because of the investors, of the stakeholders. They want to greenwash themselves. And what I see right now is even with the ESGs, environmental, social, and governance, I see that we have water as part of the environmental. So more and more saying, well, we are a green company, we are fulfilling ESG as well because we are doing something with water, which is not true. It's like the same, the supermarket doesn't solve goal 2, zero hunger, due to the fact that it sells food. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So far, you're right.
We should stop doing the right things and taking SDG 6, taking ESG to greenwash ourselves. And I want to give you a positive. I mean, we have end of year, right? So I want to take a positive example of a company I found which is doing that in a pretty good way. It's Xylem.
Surprise, surprise.
I'm not involved in Xylem, right? I don't have any business or any relationship with Xylem
Directly.
But I read the report, the ESG report from last year, and I found it so much interesting. I mean, you're reading your stuff, and you're blaming on me that I read sustainable reports.
I read that one because I interviewed Austin Alexander, who's in charge of that for Xylem. So cool interview on my podcast. That was my plug, which I have to do all the time.
And it was so inspiring for me to see the ambition goal. One was that they said, we want to engage that at least 95% of all Xylem employees doing volunteer activities. And they have achieved last year 78%. They want to ensure that 100% of their employees worldwide have access to clean water and safe sanitation. So they do it in their own.
They walk the talk. Yeah.
They really walk the talk. And they give 1% of their profits to water-related causes and education, which is pretty good. I think it could be more, right?
Even which is something I discussed with Patrick Decker as well, but I'm stopping with my advertising.
But I mean, I think it could be more than 1%, right? I do as small company, I do 10, right? So I do same. But I mean, we are talking about different numbers for sure. But let's say that was so inspiring for me. Why not taking this company, these ambition goals, this behavior as a little bit as a role model for the industry and stop greenwashing. Stop greenwashing yourself, guys. And that is the point. And take Xylem as role model, or let's say we have some other companies as well, where you can go into the sustainable report. They do something right. But Xylem, Evoqua, Suez, they do some good things. But let's say take these companies as role model and stop greenwashing yourself just for the investors, please. That is a little bit my editorial to say.
So first, let me take that thought and put it in the fridge because we're in December and we had a show last December or last January, I'm not sure anymore, about what we didn't want to see further in the industry. And what we didn't want to see further in the industry is to have every single pitch starting with, SDG 6, blah, blah, blah. SDG 6,
hasn't
blah,
changed,
blah, blah.
Right?
So I think we still agree on that one, but let's take it in my... It's interesting because, again, you'll see that there's an echo in my top 3. So I don't discuss that right here with you. What I'm thinking here is not going against you, is enhancing what you said. Mm-hmm. Because my belief, and that's interesting because that's pretty new, it's because I discussed with a lot of people who convinced me that way, is that we are missing the goal in terms of SDGs. We are not focusing on the right SDG. We keep focusing on SDG 6, which you're right, is a goal for the state to say we have to bring water, and then how they trickle that down so that the execution happens is a different story, and we do know they failed in that. And we disagree on how they should do it, but we agree that they failed. To me, the other one you mentioned, for instance, like SDG 2, is much more of a water industry topic. That's the same for SDG 1, SDG 3, SDG 9, SDG 10, SDG 11.
Most of them, they are somehow related to water.
But most of them. But if you take, for instance, the Zero Hunger one, can have a lot to do with the water industry, because
Absolutely.
if the water industry comes together with the agri-food industry, we can supply them the water they are missing to do like clever farming or vertical farming or whatever farming, and then we can build that virtuous circle and then do something. And there the water industry can have a direct impact, which is not the case for the billions of people who lack access to water, which is more difficult to grab as an industry. Same with the adaptation to climate change. Adaptation to climate change means we will have to do stormwater management. And that is something where the water industry can straightforward bring its solution.
We discussed that,
and
right?
Work on, yeah, absolutely. And with the zero poverty, we know that there's a direct correlation between the non-access to water and poverty. We see with the water.org example we've discussed so many times on that microphone how there is, I mean, if you bring water to people, then they go out of poverty. It's like mechanical, it's that straightforward. And there, the water industry can help, because if you supply them with the right filter, point of entry, point of use, whatever, or even with a small scale system, they could do it on a community scale.
I think it's not. That is not the job of the water industry.
You can take a water credit.
I mean, the water industry can deliver the technology, but you need somehow, what you're referring to is the NGO, which are giving the loans,
or a bank. Or whatever, yeah.
You're giving the loans to the people that they can afford to technology, and then they can have the water, then they can go to get the money back somehow from work.
What I'm saying is that you were highlighting SDGs and you were highlighting ESG, and I think ESG is even more of a critical lens, because you're saying water goes to environment and then we do whatever blue washing there.
Yeah.
I think we are missing the point where water goes to the S, to social. Water has a huge influence on social and societal issues. Even though I get your point that it might not be something for the water industry, that's where I disagree. I think the water industry has to play its role there to bring water sufficiently on the forefront of the scene so that it is possible to pick it up as the society and to work with it. And that is maybe where we are failing today. You're saying that we are somehow bullshitting with SDG 6?
I'm just saying that there are companies out there who are saying, well, we are an environmental friendly company due to the fact that we are in the water industry, and that's why we are solving SDG 6, which is bullshit. Full stop.
Yeah.
I mean, they sell it in a way. They sell it on the way that they have a technology, a solution to treat water, to sell it to the next for a price, but they don't care about the SDG in general.
I wouldn't say bullshit. I would say kind of unrelated. Like,
they sell it in a way that they look better to investors or to other stakeholders. So that's what they use it as a positive argument, but in fact, that has nothing to do. There's no relation in what they do to SDG 6.
There is limited relation, but there still is a relation somehow. If you're
but it's the same as a supermarket. The supermarket doesn't solve zero hunger.
Not fully.
If they sell just food.
If you're a Bossack, if you're an EcoPack, if you are an Eurowater, if you are somehow an IHUS and you're building containerized solutions, well, you can argue that your container solution, if they are really self-sustaining, they could be solving SDG 6 on a small scale in certain places. So I'm not saying
but then it must be somewhere. Then it must be somewhere where they really have a water issue. If you just sell your water container to BASF, that they have a kind of backup that doesn't has anything to do with SDG 6. SDG 6 means access to water. So if you bring your container to a location or to a community where they don't have that, yes, then you're right. But if you bring it to BASF or to another industrial plant where they have a backup or emergency or whatever, no.
But it contributes to the SDG which goes after economic development. It goes about the SDG which goes after poverty, because if you bring it to BASF, to keep your example, even though I wouldn't be concerned that BASF doesn't make money, but if you go to BASF and it's a fail-safe that they are never running out of water, like take Taiwan as an example. When Taiwan didn't have any water, they were shutting down the full microelectronic plants. Then we had a big problem worldwide because we relied on that microelectronic plants. All of that was a water topic. And there the water industry can support by providing the right solution to industrials one-to-one.
Yes, you see.
But it's not SDG 6. It's not SDG 6.
You see the overall. You have a perspective right now from a helicopter. Right, you see how that works. But the company who is just claiming, hey, I'm doing something for SDG 6 because I have a technology to treat water, I have a membrane or a pump or whatever, has nothing to do.
Forget the SDG 6. If you go to
but that is how the industry is playing
but if you go to that microelectronics player and you say, look, I do know that the way you do normally is to take water from the ground or for the utility. Okay, but what happens if there's no water anymore? You don't want to hire water engineers, do you? No, you don't. So you don't want to be building your own skids yourself. No, do you? No, you don't. Do you want to build your own containers? Do you? No, you don't. So as a water industry, we can come and say, look, We supply you with that water. Whatever happens outside, you become really autonomous with your water because we build a reuse loop. I'm taking now an absolute example. That is, to me, a point where the water industry has direct influence on an SDG. It just happens not to be SDG 6.
And nothing to do with SDG 6, right?
Exactly. And that is a shift of mind. And actually, I got that shift of mind when I was discussing with John Robinson or with Kevin Soffen, where we were really discussing those elements of water not as water, like water is life, but water as water is a risk. And water is a risk you can mitigate. And to mitigate that risk, you need the water industry. And that is very interesting because that changes the position of the water industry. We are no longer a cost for industries to be in business. We are the enabler for them to stay in business and to be resilient.
We discussed it in our last show.
Absolutely. So I agree with you.
Oh, first time, right? Is it because of December show and Christmas?
Maybe Christmas mood. But maybe we should get that message a bit more out. Thank you.